Welcome to another episode of Rainbow Popcorn. We are 2 out of 3 brothers talking about queer cinema. Hello, Brett.
Hello, Lee.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. We are going to talk about The Parenting,
Yeah.
the film. But before we do, we haven't had one for a while.
Oh, not a Bilson's. I don't know why not a Bilson's.
And I
A fruit
saw
tangle.
these in the shop. They were on special. Somebody, probably Coca-Cola, saved Bilson's from going under.
Good. We need to go there, you know.
And so we have a Bilson's fruit tangle.
Oops.
Which has been
Cheers.
a long time. Cheers. Oh,
Fuck that. Ooh, wow.
yeah. Oh,
Wow. Oh, so much
I
sugar.
forgot the tangle / tingle.
Yes.
The tingle
Hashtag tangle tingle.
comes after the taste of what they are claiming is fruit.
Speaking of fruits,
There's 2 in this
the
movie.
parenting.
I have to make an apology, and I'm surprised nobody in the comments pulled me up on it. Because we said Lisa Kudrow from Mad About You,
That's correct.
Dean Norris from
I think I said Kimmy Schmidt.
you said Kimmy Schmidt. What's her name from Edie Falco from Nurse Jackie?
What's her name?
And then I said Brian Cox from Saw, which is totally wrong.
Yeah, okay.
Brian Cox was in The Ring.
You were getting Brian Cox and Carrie
Danny
Ellis.
Glover. Danny Glover
That's
confused.
That's an easy mistake.
Because I don't see colour.
That's okay. Great.
Yeah.
Brian Cox
Was in The Ring.
Was in The Ring as the old guy whose kid it is stuck in the well.
Samara's father.
Okay.
Yes.
So in Scary Movie 3, that's played. I don't know. Not that guy, because he's the architect in Scary Movie
It's played by Dean
3.
Norris.
Wait, does that overlap? Anyway, I'm not going to get into it.
So apologies and a clarification for that.
Great. Everything else was right. Brandon Flynn's only done one thing.
Brandon
I
Flynn's done that and the Calvin Klein campaign.
Which, more on that later.
We both watched it, obviously,
yes,
as
we
we're
did.
meant to for the podcast.
And even though it was on Max, I still watched it on binge. Even though
I didn't even know it was on binge.
okay, dumb. This is one complaint I have. Not about the movie. It's not the movie's fault. Remote.
Yeah.
And you just voice search parenting. All that came up was like YouTube videos about parenting.
And something from ABC Kids.
Right. And then I went, The Parenting, and it came straight up.
Well, that's fair.
But parenting is the title. Like, it's like, you know what, you don't have to put
Title
the.
is The Parenting.
Yeah, but it should still come up when I say parenting.
Yeah, but people might be like, my kid's being a shit, teach me some parenting.
Yeah, but that still
Hubble.
comes up.
Is
But
it Hubble?
parenting it was Hubble. Hubble's not great. Anyway, that's
But
a
also-
whole other episode.
My LG TV did the same thing. And often, LG, if you're listening, show me where it is for free before you tell me I can buy it or rent it on Amazon. Not for the parenting, just a general
Why don't you just use that
comment.
app?
Because the Just Watch app also tells me I can buy it on Amazon
Yes,
because I
that's
feel
true.
like
Oh,
Bezos
no.
owns Just Watch.
I'm just going to have to delete that. Then I'm going to be that guy on Facebook that says, where can I watch this?
Why don't we make our own app?
Okay.
All right, we'll have that ready by
Rainbow
next
Popcorn
week.
app.
Yeah, where you can watch all the queer movies.
And it'll be like that episode of
course.
something where...
Good. The Parenting
Yep. No,
has
I'm not-
2
it's- yep.
gays in it who have previously played straights, but they're
Yep.
actually gay and now they're playing gays.
Yeah. And it's
Brandon
the 80s.
Flynn and Nick Dodani.
So it opens in the
They're the
80s.
stars. Opens in 1983, which they
Yep.
got right. The 1980s kind of horror. The only problem was his crop top wasn't a crop top.
It wasn't cropped. But
And
he had the
his
short
shorts
shorts.
weren't quite short enough.
Yeah, okay.
I see a meme all the time. It's like, guys, what is stopping you from dressing like 1980s horror hunks?
Yep. Some people still do,
Well,
but not straighties.
this is the thing. I want to go a bit in the body positive thing. people love crop tops on 1987 Johnny Depp. Are they going to love
Oh,
crop
okay.
tops on someone that
On
doesn't have that body?
2024 Johnny Depp. No.
yeah. On somebody that doesn't have the horror hunk body.
Some people would.
Some people would, that's true, but they're not going to be on the Instagrams to the
They
level.
might be.
Anyway, let's know
Anyway.
what we're talking about.
So yes, 80s, something's happening. There's a mum and her kids.
Mum and the kids are being shit because they're teenagers, and then they all get taken by a demon. One down in the basement, one in the garage, and one in the hallway. I normally say garage.
Aren't they both in the basement? The mum and the brother?
I think the brother
Because
got...
he opened and went, and then he just went, whooped.
He got whooped back in, but he ended up in the garage.
Anyway, that's
And
not
then we
actually
jump
important to the
to
story, strangely enough.
The now time, where Brandon Flynn and Nick Dodani, who I have forgotten the names of,
Josh and Rohan.
Rohan, yes.
Rohan.
Not
Yeah.
Roman, yeah.
And just in case you didn't know, then it was modern times. There were two gays driving, listening to Dua Lipa.
Yeah, yeah.
So now we know it's the 2020s at least.
Now you know it's the now time because gays exist,
If you want to,
and so does Dua Lipa.
Yep.
It's not a horror comedy. It's a horror rom-com.
It's barely a horror,
If you look,
and it's barely a comedy.
well, no,
Actually, no, there were funny moments.
found-
I did laugh at mainly Lisa Kudrow.
I
But anyway.
found quite a lot of it quite funny. But I think if you're ranking the three genres, it goes comedy, romance, horror.
Yep.
And horror is the third one. So I would call it a rom-com horror, not a horror comedy. HBO Max, if you're listening, please reorganize it. Because if we're looking at story tropes, which you know I love to do, it's got them all, right? The first time meeting the parents,
Yep.
the friend who comes out of nowhere,
Mystical Asian. Yep.
the getaway to a place, a lovely house. One question I had was, why doesn't Brandon Flynn already know what's in the boot of the car when they get there?
I think it was somehow trying to tell the story of Rohan is the organizer. He's doing everything.
Yeah.
And Brandon Flynn's just the hot one that's there with his guitar.
But Brandon Flynn just did a whole road trip without looking into the back of the car.
No, because he would have
How
just
much
like...
stuff did you bring?
He would have just got up. Rohan would have been like, "You ready to go?" And he's like, "Fuck, I just woke up. Can I shower?" And then he would have just got in the car with his stuff.
With his tight T-shirt on.
Yeah.
That
And then
Rohan
his
hated for
beanie
some
that he
reason?
had, but he didn't have in the car, but he put on before he got out of the car.
Yeah, but then
Anyway.
Rohan took it off and he had hat hair until he turned around to meet the parents, and then the hat hair was gone.
Yeah.
And it was perfect
There were
hair.
some inconsistencies. Whether they were on purpose or not, I don't know. Was it meant to be like, ooh, alternate universe where he wears a beanie? But then it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
Anyway.
So it had a lot of the rom-com tropes early
Yep.
on and set that up well. The two sets of parents are very different. But what it also did very early on was just like Parker Posey's fucking with them. Like
But that's,
blatantly
like,
obvious.
From the start, it was like, she's in on it and she has something to do with this demon thing that we know's coming because we saw the trailer.
And the Wi-Fi password is a Latin incantation that will summon a demon.
Yeah. Ego Wodum SNL. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know.
Ego Wodum from SNL. She's hilarious. Anyway. She's one of the good ones.
And then it was like, it's not a traditional horror trope in shit starts to go wrong and we don't know why.
What a
Shit starts
traditional
to go
horror trope
wrong.
more would have been is like, we didn't see Parker Posey at the start. They would have just got there and then she shows up and then shit starts happening.
Yeah. So that was interesting because the mystery wasn't what the fuck's going on with Brian Cox and why is he suddenly calling them names, which was a bit intense.
Yeah.
The mystery then became, what does Parker Posey have to do with it?
Well,
Because there was a hint in the 80s opening that someone else was in the girl's bedroom.
yeah.
But we didn't know that was Parker Posey until the end.
I almost thought at the start, from the first note was like, oh, Parker Posey is the girl from the start. and the demon is she.
Ah,
I don't know why I
she's
said
the
it like
demon.
that. She's the demon and the demon is she. That's actually a lyric from a Lady Gaga song. She is the demon and the demon is she. Abra unana. So I thought it was like, oh, she's in on it. Great, obvious. The trailer is, we know there's a demon. We know fucked up shit happens. We know that Brian Cox gets naked for some reason.
Yep.
So then I was like, what do I not know about this movie already?
For a demon that is homophobic, the demon talks a lot about Brian Cox's dick.
I
'Cause
didn't
he's
get
like,
it. Or just
"Look
dicks in
at it."
general. Yeah, just dicks
And then
in
he was
general.
just like, this guy's dick's small.
Yeah, you've got a small dick like your dad.
But also, like, does the demon not know adoption is a thing?
No, but he was.
Because
Yeah, he was.
Brian Cox is not genetically passing that down
Yeah, I don't
to
know.
Nick Dodani.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
It's a dumb demon, which is why it got confused and didn't just pick a host in the end.
And why was it a bird? Anyway, that's at the end.
It's probably a real demon.
It probably is Andrus.
Yeah, Andrus probably is a real thing.
I went on a date with a guy named Andrus.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he was not a demon. He was a ghost.
Hey!
Get it? Maybe I was.
Ah, that's the sound
Oh,
effect from
wah, 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 wah.
You know the kids today say womp womp?
Womp womp, like womp womp.
No, instead of womp womp
Oh,
womp,
they say womp womp.
they just go womp womp. Instead of, not the three womp. You know sometimes the sound effect is womp womp.
Yes.
They kids go, just say womp
Womp,
womp.
womp.
Not even with the pitches.
Womp womp. That's a Drag Race reference.
Oh, I didn't know it
Womp
was...
womp. It's not. The two aren't correlated.
No, that's what I meant. I didn't
anyway.
know that womp womp was a term for your yarbos.
Just there was one queen once. It was like womp womp.
Did it honk?
Well, honka honka. No, I don't know. Anyway,
Womp womp.
so dumb Asian friend spoils the proposal.
I did not understand her character.
Because she was dumb, but then was drunk, and then
Also spoke Latin.
spoke Latin, and she kind of remembered it, and then chanted shit at the end, out of nowhere.
I think what they could have done is made Edie Falco know Latin.
I don't know if we needed the friend, or is the friend then just like that friend from Get Out?
Because also the moment where she's like, I don't want you to get married and move to the suburbs and have kids because I have no family other than you two boys. That was unnecessary.
Spot on. Best impression Lee's ever done,
Like-
except for when Daffy Duck was lightning.
That was just unnecessary because it wasn't actually a subplot. It was just a scene.
Yes, and I think having her there, and she got a decent amount of screen time, it was like she was trying to then also be the comic relief, but you don't need comic relief when you have Lisa Kudrow.
But all of the
But
cast
it's a
are
comedy.
funny.
So it's not a horror with one person being comic relief. It's a comedy. So you don't need comic relief in a comedy.
No, because you've also written it. Like if you just look at the characters, it's a rom-com type character setup. Two
Yeah.
very different guys, two very different people that fall in love that come from two very different families, and then the families don't get along because they're so different.
Yeah.
The silk pajamas versus the taxi.
Yeah.
Like,
He doesn't say anything to, what's his name? Dean
Rohan.
Norris. Being like, how's someone coming out of both ends, or whatever he said about the chicken.
yeah, it made me toot like a rocket launcher or something. Yes, that's just pure comedic setup. So you don't then need a comic relief character to the side of that.
Yeah.
And so I just thought that whole character was unnecessary. And I think Edie Falco could have known Latin because she was a psychologist, so maybe she learnt it at college. And so when they're reading out the Wi-Fi password, she can be like, this is what it means. Maybe just that Parker Posey weirdo likes Latin shit.
Yeah.
And then at the end, She tries the beep boop robot lady, and then they're like, "That's not it, Edie. We need something else." And she's like, "Oh, I know this Latin phrase meaning fuck off."
Yeah.
Done.
I think it was interesting.
I should write a movie.
Like, there's what, 8 characters? Sure. Actually, there
if
is.
you count
if
frick,
you-
frack, and fucked if I know.
Um,
Which also
no, I'm
wasn't
not.
like there was no. I've got to get the dogs. Frick, frack, and fucked if I know. She never told me their name. I think they deleted the line of "We're dog sitting these dogs for a friend."
But then it's like, yes,
Because
actually
then
true.
after one died, she's
Yep.
like, "Well, I have to tell her a bit. I have to tell
One got crushed.
Rachel about this."
But then it was also like one got crushed by the China hutch,
Yeah,
which is not a thing.
not in an Airbnb.
No. And was that the same one that then got possessed and they bashed with a mallet and then for some reason put in the dishwasher?
But then if that was the other one, where were the other two?
That's what I mean.
And
we
where
didn't
was-
see the 3 dogs. And then at the end, when
Where
it was
was
like,
Kate?
"Oh, all good," and there was only 2 dogs.
Yeah, but also their dog came back.
Yeah, the dogs had no. I know they're not characters, but they had no like effect on the movie. They had no purpose for
All
me.
they needed, they didn't need Nick Dodani and Brandon Flynn to have Josh and Rohan to have a dog,
Nope.
or they didn't need Lisa Kudrow to bring 3 dogs.
No.
Because it wasn't deep enough that Edie Falco or Brian Cox hated dogs. There was the funny that the dog got possessed and and bit the arm and then the finger up its ass. That was a funny moment.
Okay.
Okay, it wasn't an essential moment to the story, but it was funny. The only things the dogs did was that funny moment and the sniffing the vaginas, which led to the awkwardness of we think she's a lesbian because she likes pussy so much.
And then
You could
she-
have done
Yep.
both of those scenes with one
with
dog
one dog.
and not needed us now to be asking where were the dogs for the whole movie.
Yep. Yep, that's true. Dogs are relevant.
Yeah.
I don't, but then, or then if we go back to, does Parker Posey then just come along later and she's not there waiting for them at the start?
With a wig over her
With a
grey
braid.
weird
That was
hair.
hilarious.
Is that a wig? Is that 2 wigs?
Does then she then she goes, "I didn't know about the dogs, that's why I'm here." Then weird shit starts happening.
Because they brought dogs, she's like, well, fuck, I'm going to kill them all.
Here's the Wi-Fi password.
No, because they've been looking for a host.
And then
In 40 years, I'm surprised they didn't get a host she didn't get a host in 40 years.
that's true, unless they only just redid it. I don't know. It didn't actually make any sense. There was a lot of just gaps in the story.
Well, the other thing with Parker Posey coming in early, and I've forgotten her name, was... Brenda. Which is not a... No.
It's not an 80s
It's not
name.
a name for Parker Posey. I don't think. It didn't suit her. I found it odd. Oh, I've lost what I was saying with that. Oh, yeah. There was a fire and the people didn't live. Oh, couldn't live. Like, that's a big slip up.
Yes, because they're demons.
Yeah. Or are they zombies? Or are they ghosts?
Well, in the credits, one of them is like Zombie Sharon, or whatever the mum's name is.
Yeah.
She's like Zombie Lisa.
Surely the same person plays Lisa as plays zombie Lisa.
No, they're 2 different people in the credits. Yeah, weird. Because maybe that other one couldn't do a rip-off exorcism.
That's not real. Like, don't cast her then.
Yep.
As either.
Because she's not
Ally.
in a... She doesn't do much other than be like, dinner's ready, I burnt the pizza for some reason. At the start. The 80s
Put a
mum.
timer on before it gets to the smoke detector.
Yeah. And where's the dad? Anyway, that's
Out
not
on the
important.
farm.
Oh, because it used to be a farm.
Oh. But no,
It
maybe
was a working farm?
the dad's not on the scene.
Okay, that's fine.
That's the prequel. The unparenting.
Yes. That's a whole other thing. That's not allowed in every
you know what's not
US
good?
state anymore.
We've said it's a great cast. Edie Falco can't act like she's being choked.
No.
That was not a great performance moment for her.
No.
Old,
Yeah.
old Christina did it better in Mummy Dearest, even when she wasn't actually being choked.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
It wasn't great. That moment,
That.
the rest
yeah.
of the performance, I thought was good.
I think the acting was really good.
Brandon Flynn was good.
I did like Brandon Flynn, actually, because I hadn't seen him in anything other than
His
he had a
jocks.
fucked up storyline in 13 Reasons Why.
The whole show's
as
fucked up.
opposed to all the other teenagers who were
Yeah.
normal. Yeah, okay. No, but his was particularly fucked up
I can't remember.
from memory.
I didn't watch season 2. Because for me, that's a show that doesn't need a season.
It didn't.
It was
It really didn't.
13 Reasons Why. Suddenly there's 26 Reasons Why.
No, then they have more because then at the second one they go to court.
Yeah. But are there 13 people in the stand in court and they're the reasons why?
No, there's like
Yeah,
13 pieces of evidence.
Ugh.
Anyway, you know what reason why I didn't understand why it was a thing? That was bad, but you know what
Yeah,
I'm trying
yeah.
to... She's a witch with a snow globe?
Yeah, like Elsa.
Did she... So she is she a witch? Brenda.
She
So
could
she
be.
can make it snow and
No,
control the weather?
The demon makes the
like
snow.
Madame Morrible?
The demon, Mystical Asian said it.
Hmm.
The demon is the Stormbringer
But then why does she have a snow globe
because the demon does her bidding.
and not the other way around?
Hmm.
Yes.
Which is why at the end they do this little weird dancey thing to get out of the circle.
Yes, okay.
Yeah?
Yep. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
like a Michael Jackson Thriller moment.
Yeah. Cool.
That's a very horror trope too, being snowed in.
Oh, yeah. Or just like, I can't get out.
Yeah.
We're stuck here and things are happening. My future father-in-law slashed me with a knife.
That would have gone much deeper than it did.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Nick Dodani would have brought a good knife.
Yes.
And so I feel like that slash and that slash could be nerve damage.
Maybe.
Me might never play the guitar again.
Through to the bone.
Poor guy. Can Brandon Flynn actually play the guitar?
I don't know.
I
Probably.
didn't look that up. I just looked up his Calvin Klein ads.
Yep.
I'd like it to be pipes. I was right about that line.
You
I
were right.
Talked about it in the trailer.
No, but that was about the other couple having... Everybody thought it was... Nobody thought it was the gays.
Everybody thought it was one set of parents.
Yeah, so the gays thought it was Edie Falco and Brian
yeah.
Cox. And then...
Rohan didn't want it to be anyone. Josh said it was Edie Falco and Brian Cox. And then Lisa Kudrow and Dean Norris thought it was Edie Falco and Brian Cox and vice versa.
Yeah.
Because one was trying to be subtle about it. And then Dean Norris was like, oh, I'm surprised you're this awake after all the fucking you did last night.
Yeah.
So that was his character. Not
It's
subtle.
just very crass.
Crass. Except when she's like, oh, fuck if I know. Oh, that's not me. 3 times that joke was made. You predicted 5. It was made 3 times.
But it was... You know what was... The end was funny. The last one she did, but she didn't need to say... Oh, that wasn't me. We made our own circle, bitch.
Yeah, I
didn't
don't
like
think
that
she
words.
should have apologised.
No.
To me.
Because everybody else was swearing up a storm, including the demon,
Yeah.
in very
Saying
bad
to
things.
quote you effing queers. I don't know why I censored myself then. Chocolate munching poof is an interesting one.
Didn't like that.
No.
No.
At one point, though, I thought you would like it. Brian Cox goes, Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ. And then someone was
Do you
like,
want that on a
Jesus
t-shirt?
who? I don't know him.
Do you want that on a T-shirt?
Not Brian Cox saying Jesus Christ.
The weakest joke in the movie?
The fart joke.
The fart joke. Why?
It was the door.
It was the door.
It just didn't fit the same humour.
No, it's not a fart joke movie.
If it was Scary Movie 4, yes.
And it was a bigger fart.
Yeah.
It would have been a bigger fart. Possibly a shart.
Or if it was a consistent thing. That it was like she farted when she was nervous.
Oh, yeah, Sarah's a farter.
Yeah.
Maybe if that was a thing.
Yeah.
But it was just a one-off. I feel like there were a few moments where they just wrote jokes and then wrote things in around them. Like the dog
The dog with
sniffing
the finger in the
vagina
bum.
and the
Oh.
dog with the finger in the bum.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, if we want to put that joke in, the writers are like, oh, I remember when I met my mother-in-law and my dog went up and sniffed her vagina. That's funny. Let's put it in.
Yeah.
Oh, but we'll need to put a dog in. But they, instead of putting a dog in the movie, they just put a dog in that scene.
Yeah.
And I think the fart joke was one of those. Wouldn't it be funny if we put a fart joke in?
Yeah. Look, overall, are we at that point yet?
We can be, because all I've got left in my notes is Josh kept calling him Ro, but I thought he was calling him bro. I'm like, he's about to be your fiance. Stop calling him bro.
Yeah.
And then at the end, I was like, oh, it's been Ro the whole time.
Yeah. I think it was a good... Okay, so I think the story was interesting, but not really. The acting was good. It was funny. Like, I enjoyed it. But I feel like that I thought it would be more of a horror, more of a mystery, maybe. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
knew what was going on straight away and where it was going to end up.
Yeah, there's this thing called dramatic irony in writing where the audience knows things that the characters don't know.
Yep.
And I think we knew too much.
Yep.
I think us from the trailer knowing that a demon is coming is enough for when Brian Cox starts to do weird shit. We're like, well, Brian Cox is the one that's been possessed. Rather than Parker Posey getting them to summon a demon for some unknown reason and us seeing Brian Cox get possessed. I think if we just had even if we just had the Wi-Fi password there, they try to say it a couple of times, it goes boom, but we don't finish it. Then we think someone's possessed. Maybe a couple of people do weird shit.
Yep.
Lisa Kudrow swears a little bit more. And because it's established that she doesn't like swearing, we're like, well, maybe she's possessed.
Your mother sucks cocks in hell.
That I was thinking of some line from The Exorcist,
Yeah.
something about cunt.
Your cunting daughter.
Yes. And then maybe Edie Falco is suddenly really loving or something.
Yeah, and you could have set up other things like then does Edie Falco start, or one of them starts acting weird because she has a gummy.
Yeah, and then
And
the
so you
gummy
think
pays
it's
off
just-
other than in just a kind of rom-com trope of
Yeah.
he needs to get high/drunk to get through this.
Yeah, and then the dogs start acting weird. Then that's why you have dogs there.
Yeah, the dog starts humping lots
Yeah.
of things for some reason.
Yeah, so you're like blah blah, but then it's really somebody else.
Yeah, then it's really Brian Cox when he
Yeah.
maybe he spews.
Maybe he spews and
Maybe
they
he
go, "Oh,
spews,
that
they're like,
chicken,
"Oh, that
Oh,
noodles."
he spews, right? And then the other dad is like, "Yeah, I was on the toilet all night."
Yeah.
And then he's like, "But he was possessed by a demon,
And then
not
maybe-
diarrhea."
Later, he spews up the crazy noodles. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, well, that would be too crazy. But then we're like, oh, maybe these.
And then he
yeah.
rests, and then they go into his room, and it's all cold, and he's there with like a really weird face and a tongue, and then spews green, and then his head spins around.
And then the bed floats.
yeah,
Yeah. It's just The Exorcist with gays.
yep.
And then Edie Falco can speak Latin.
She's a former psychologist.
Maybe we could write the movie.
Let's
Write
write that.
an
The
own
movie
movie.
instead. Yeah.
Okay, done.
Now that
Don't
we've put
steal
it,
it.
now that we've said that, we're basically just ripping them off.
Every movie's a rip-off of something.
That's true.
The Exorcist 2024 is a rip-off of The Exorcist 1978.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not. It's a sequel. The Exorcist Believer.
Is it a sequel?
Yeah.
What was that other one? The Believer
Exorcist
one.
Believer,
That was
yeah.
a sequel.
It's a sequel
Oh
because
yeah,
it's got
she's
her in it.
Yeah. Sorry, I completely forgot what happened. I was getting it confused with that Deliverance one that was a rip-off.
Oh, you weren't getting it confused with the Russell Crowe, the Pope's Exorcist.
I definitely was not.
That's not bad.
Hmm.
What would you give this one out of 3.5 stars?
Out of 3.5, I would give it.
No, actually, let's start rating movies out of 7. What would you give it out of 7? I don't know why 7.
Why 7?
I don't know, because it's not 4 and it's not 8.
because it's not 4.
Because Roger Ebert has taken 4 and everybody else has taken 5 and 10.
I would give it a 4.2 out of 7.
That's low.
I would give it a 3 out of 5.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't
all right.
think that
Close
actually
maths.
that kind of works.
I'm going to give it a 5.25 out of 7.
Okay.
I think it was good.
I think it was good. I just think that the story could have done more, and it wasn't like shocking.
I would have liked one more pass over the draft, and I would have liked more horror.
Yeah, I would have liked more suspense lead up to the like. It was just a bit like, oh, he's possessed now,
It was like, Parker Posey's going to fuck shit up. Oh, he's possessed.
and everybody's like weird. And Lisa Kudrow's funny, but we already knew that.
I
so-
did like that the marriage of horror and rom-com is it that it was the horror that was putting the conflict on their relationship.
Yes.
Because him going, yes, I am defending you as he walks away, and him siding with his dad instead of the partner. That's a rom-com trope.
Yeah.
Siding with your family instead of your partner. They didn't break up. That's not a rom-com trope, but he did throw the ring away.
They did have a spat. And then all it took to win him back is to sacrifice himself.
To one
He's
of-
going to sacrifice himself. You can't. There's got to be another way. Sorry. Do you want to stop stone from getting that snake? I'm not. Anyway.
It's you, not Edie, not Brian.
You.
That's it. That's the parenting. New on HBO
Yeah.
Max.
Yeah, it's a good little, just nice movie to watch.
It's also, like I said in our reaction and our previous episode, it's good that them being queers isn't the point of the movie. Yes, the demon gets a bit homophobic, and there's a moment of like Brian Cox saying to Rohan, I don't know if you do know how okay I am with you being gay, and so I'm going to say it. It's not like the horror doesn't happen to them because they're gays.
Yes.
It's not that. It's just a couple meeting their parents.
Yep.
And then shit goes weird, which I
Yep.
think is good for gays in the mainstream cinema. And they're played by gays. And even though these guys both have played straight characters before, straight teenagers before, in 13 Reasons Why and Atypical, they can play gays and be out gays.
Yes, they can.
So well done, Nick and
Brandon.
Brandon. Oh my
God.
God. I'm going to put a whiteboard up with names.
Yeah.
Why am I so bad at it?
Don't know.
Anyway, that's it. That's the parenting. We kind of stuck that episode in because it came out on HBO Max. And I know we've said in previous episodes that we have Call Me By Your Name and the Brady Bunch movie coming up. They're still coming up.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere.
We just wanted to get chatting about the parenting because it was new and we
Yep.
just signed up for Max. And I like that you chose Parker Posey as your little avatar.
I had to.
I don't know what Shane chose for ours.
I think it's the Night King from Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah.
Not that we share an account.
We don't. We've just seen each other's loading screens.
Yeah.
Someone was asking for Veep avatars on HBO Max, which I think would be great.
Yeah.
Because I think actually on the binge that we don't share,
We actually don't.
Dad chose Julia Louis-Dreyfus from Veep as the avatar.
I don't think I have one.
Do you have binge?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway.
you don't need to anymore because you got Max.
Yeah. I'll be deleting that soon.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Rainbow Popcorn. We'll be back next week to talk about other stuff we've watched on the screens. And then our next movie review is Call Me By Your Name. So you have a couple of weeks to watch that. Thank you, Brett.
Thanks, Leg.